He turned against her and he beat her really bad, and we were all having food and he just sat down casually, just said, "Oh, wouldn't it be good if we got Rubie Marie?" I was 15, he was 30. I just thought, I can't take this, and I decided to commit suicide. And I was like, no, I do know what I want to get out of this hellhole. I think I've dissected every single trauma and every single part of my life and looked at it and analysed it and from multi perspectives.
Rubie, welcome to Multispective. I'm so excited to have you on air with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that we finally make this happen. You have such a powerful story, and I think it's one that trigger warnings do need to be given. I also think it's a really important story. It's your reality, and it could be someone else's reality that's listening to this today. So let's begin with maybe your very beginning. What was your childhood like with your family?
Oh, my childhood was amazing. It was so fun. As you can imagine, I've got so many brothers and sisters. It was kids running around, in the parks and, pulling each other's hair, making fun of each other, being proper rebels. And it was very fun. A lot of arguments amongst the siblings, but it was exciting.
Yeah. So you were born and raised in the UK?
Yes, I was born and raised in the UK in a place called Wales. It's in the countryside, and it was a little town called 𝗠𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗂𝘁. It's right by the coast. The beach, stunning beaches. A lot of people actually come surfing as well in 𝗣𝗚𝗃𝗃𝗃 for surfing.
Yeah. And your parents, were they also born in the UK?
No, so my father did come to the UK when he was about 5-6 years old. The reason being is because he came with his father. My grandfather came over for work. So my father came with him, and my father went to school here. So he's quite westernized. He knows how to speak fluent English. He's very intelligent. He's got a very high IQ. I mean, he applied to be a judge, and he missed out on 2-3 marks of being a judge. And when you want to be a judge, I believe that you only got one shot at it. He's a very intelligent man, and he went over to Bangladesh when he was 18 to get married, arranged married to my mum. So you've got an arranged marriage, which does work. Arranged marriages do work when both parties have consented to that marriage. But it changes when one or both parties do not consent.
Right.
And everybody else consents, and that's where you get problems.
Yeah. I find this fascinating because you mentioned that your dad was more or less raised in the UK, even though he went back when he was 18. But it seems, knowing your story, and we will get into this, so listeners are not too familiar with this right now, but that he still kind of maintained quite a traditional kind of mindset in the way, sort of even the way that he raised you and your siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was quite fascinating for me, because I was always thinking, you grew up here, you know what it's like, you know the British culture. Every Friday night, all the British people love going to the pub and just socialising and things like that. So he was quite aware of everything, and it was very daunting to me how he still had embedded the whole old traditions. And the old traditions are mainly dominated by the male perspective, so culture is a beautiful thing. Traditions are a beautiful thing, but it's when it gets chopped up and made into something that it's not.
Did your family and your dad and mom, did they look for another Bangladeshi sort of community where in the UK where your family was, or was he quite open with his social community? And
my father was actually looked up to in our community because he knew how to speak English. He was fluent at, reading, writing and things like that. And the other extended families of cousins or etc., they probably would have had a harder time, like even reading letters that come through the post. So they would always come to our house, and I would always see my father reading it out, explaining it to them. I mean, my father used to do work for the police, interpreting. So he was multi-skilled, very multi-skilled.
Yeah. Tell me about what happened with your sister that sort of changed the entire dynamic in your family.
So she's 3 years older than me, and we were in a secondary school, which would be your high school in America. I had a secret boyfriend. She had a secret boyfriend. But she was at that age to go and get married. So she was in college and I was in secondary school, and she was at that age to get married. And she just was deeply in love, and she just thought, yes, I want to tell my father about it. And so she did. But his whole idea about it just went completely south. She thought she was doing a good thing, but my father was totally against it. I think the idea was he wanted to choose a suitor for her, and he wanted to choose someone out of the community. So you're extending the family basically to like another city or completely different families and bring them together. That's what you wanted. But yeah, he turned against her, and he beat her really bad night when she told him, and it wasn't pleasant at all. So that's when, like 2 weeks after, she actually eloped, and we had no idea where she went. No idea at all. I didn't know. Everybody thought I would know, but I didn't, because they were like, you two, you always hang around with each other. You must know where she is. And I didn't have a clue. All I knew that was she needed to do what she needed to do, and she didn't tell me for a reason. It's because I would have told my family where she was, being like, I want my sister back, not in the fact that I think what she did was wrong in any other sense. But yeah, I really wanted to help her as well as not disclose anything. And the whole family's eyes just turned on me, and they were like, well, she's got a secret boyfriend as well, so she's going to do the same. And I did not have that in me at all. I was only 15. I was like, what? How would I even get from here to from A to B without any money? Do you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking that way at all in eloping at all. So I was quite naive, very naive.
Was it commonplace for your father to hit family members? Or was that the first time you'd ever experienced or seen it?
No, he was quite violent towards my mum. The reason being is because he remarried. But he remarried in Bangladesh, not in the UK. I have no idea why he did that. He did that when I was 8 years old. And that's when the dynamics actually changed towards the family. And he was very violent towards my mother. My elder brother, him and my elder brother would get into scuffles. But he never did anything to the rest of us until that day. He actually hurt my sister, and I was like, what? Like.
So you mentioned that he'd seen your sister had eloped, she ran away, nobody knew what was going on, and the next thing is your parents are now all eyes on you, knowing that you have a secret boyfriend as well, and they're starting to get a bit nervous around this idea that, hey, look, like there's a possibility that Rubie might also elope, even though that was not something that had occurred to you. What happens next?
So, well, as you can imagine, the heat in the house was very, very high. And there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of shouting, arguments. You know, my father was like having arguments with my mum saying, you must know where she is, or Rubie must know where she is. You know, you're always together. You're always in the house. You must know something. And we didn't know anything. And it was like that for a while. And it wasn't nice. It was so horrifically, you know, tense. Like, you could cut the air with a knife. That's how bad it was. And then I remember he owned his own restaurant, and all the cousins and everything worked there with him. And he would have meetings, bringing them back to the house in the middle of the night. And these meetings would go on for like 2 weeks straight. And I couldn't quite understand why. But I thought, yeah, they must be trying to figure out where my sister is, and, you know, trying to figure out some plan or something like that. I don't know. It was just like talking on top of each other, and I could never get a clear dialogue out of it. But then it was soon after that, my father was like, okay, so we're going to go to Bangladesh for the 6 weeks holiday. So our 6 weeks holiday is in the summertime. So we have a break from school, and then we go into the new year in September. So in that 6 weeks, he was like saying, we're going to Bangladesh. For me, it made sense because it was so tense in the house, and the community wasn't being nice to us. We had a lot of tension from the community also, and a lot of spitefulness, marks. you know, as you can imagine, when communities come together, they think they know best and they hold a lot of honor codes. You know, everyone looks out for each other, but then it's like a pyramid. It's like the ones on the top control everything else, and we're just puppets. And that's what all the meetings were about. It's like it was all male dominating. In some families, it's female dominated, but in mine, it was male dominated. And that's what all the meetings were about. They were all like trying to figure out what is the best way to get rid of the shame and bring some honor back. And that was their ultimate conclusion of like, right, we're going to get this family out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. Send them to Bangladesh, and then Rubie's going to get married over there. I had no idea at all, until it was too late for me.
So going to Bangladesh at that point, you thought was sort of just like your family getting away from the situation, the tense, a holiday, yeah.
Holiday, a break, just get away from everything. You know, my sister's gone. The shame is like on top of the family. That's what it was like. It's like, that was my idea of this is why we're going away. And I honestly thought I would be back for the new year in September, because that was my final year of secondary school. And I would have done my GCSEs and finished school then and hopefully gone to college, but that never happened.
Was this your first time going to Bangladesh as well?
Yes. First time abroad.
Wow.
Ever.
So this would have been like
we
really
never went on
exciting
holidays. I mean, we lived by the coast, and that was like a holiday in itself. It's such a beautiful place to grow up in. But other than that, we would never go away anywhere, ever. So going there was like, wow, okay, I'm going. I said, yeah, fab, this is cool. And I told my secret boyfriend, and he was like, oh, okay, so you'll be back in the after the summer holidays. And I said, yeah. And it was exciting.
Right.
Not knowing anything in the world. Like, if I knew, then I'm sure a lot of things would have been different.
Yeah.
But no, I went along with it. I was happy. I was obviously manipulated and lied to. Like, if I was in the airport and I knew what I was going to get myself into, then I wouldn't have never gone. Never.
Yeah.
I would have eloped.
Yeah. It's like probably it's with that paranoia in their head that if we do tell her she's going to leave and while we're in the UK, there's nothing we can really do about the situation. So we have to get her out of the UK, make sure that she's sort of alone, away from her comfortable like zone before we spring something like this so big on her. And at that point, you did have a concept of like what marriage would look like or what it would mean to be married. So again, if they were to tell you this earlier, it would have changed everything for you. So yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, what person would agree to go in if they didn't want to get married? No one. Yeah. It wouldn't happen at all.
So after how long after getting to Bangladesh did you kind of find out? How did you find out? And who was this person that you were being told to marry?
So when I got to Bangladesh, it was such a culture shock. In a beautiful way. My mum used to always tell us stories about how she grew up and her extended family and the way she was brought up. So it was like stories that she would told us when we were children, like coming alive. And it was like making sense of like, oh my God, this is where my family's from. It's great, I even got to meet my great-great-grandma. And that was beautiful. She passed away that year as well. But it was a privilege to meet her. Everything that I experienced, going on a little boat, going miles and miles and miles down the stream, like for hours just to get to a little village, which would be our extended family. And obviously because my father was so lucky to be in Britain, the rest of my family were poor in Bangladesh. So we went and mingled with them in the villages. We lived in mud houses, like mud huts, proper mud huts. And we went walking through bamboo bridges. It was amazing, and it's like just laying there on a little wooden boat that's got no engine, just gliding down the stream for hours and hours just to get to a destination. It was an adventure. It was amazing. And like the food there is like more flavorful and the heat is amazing. The sunsets are beautiful. The sunrise, everything there was just like exaggerated so much to what we usually know in Britain. Because in Britain it rains a lot. So there it was amazing. But we were supposed to come back for the September, and my father said, well, we spent a lot of money coming here, so we're going to stay here for a bit longer. That made sense to me, because I think what he told me then was like, we'll be back before Christmas. And I was going, oh, okay. And that made sense. I thought, 2-3 months out of school, it doesn't matter. I'm enjoying what I'm experiencing here. It's lovely. And we were so looked up to as well. And, you know, it made me really humble myself and like, wow, I'm so lucky to have been born in the UK. My family were here, and, you know, so we've got like 3 generations here now, 4 generations here. It's amazing, you know, and I felt really humbled to be British and go over there and see how they live in. And it really made my heart soft of like, this is how people live. Because I didn't know anything else. But that grounded me and I loved it. But then things started changing, because when you go somewhere for a holiday, it starts to become like living there. And 3 months is like, right, you're starting to live there now. And it was coming to a point where the younger siblings were getting frustrated. They couldn't bear the heat any longer. Obviously, weather changes over there as well. It gets hotter and then it gets cooler. And we were just like, oh, we just want to eat normal British food now. You know, we're done with it. We loved it, but we're done with it. Our bodies were not used to it. You know, we're British kids. We're used to rain. We're used to British food. And going over there, it was like, yeah, enjoyed it. But then it became living and we wanted to go home. And I remember then my father came from the village, and he came to the house and we were all having food. And he just sat down and casually just said, oh, wouldn't it be good if we got Rubie married? Just like out of the blue. And my body went into shock. My mind, my spirit, my soul, everything just went into shock. It's like I got hit by a bus, but I'm still standing. And I'm like, what's just happened? And I couldn't comprehend it. But then the anger started shooting out through my body. It was like adrenaline. And I was like shouting. I was throwing things in my room. I was being a 15-year-old having a tantrum. You know, that's all. Like, in a way, I was like, how dare you say that without even saying a word to me? Oh, just think it would be good if we got Rubie married. Like, oh, okay, you already made the decision, so what's the point in saying anything to me? It just didn't make sense to me at all. And then it wasn't long after that I got engaged. The person that I got married to, I did see him briefly, because all the men were having a meeting in front of the house. We got an extension in front of this beautiful mansion that my mum and father built over the years, sending money back abroad, and they built it from scratch, bought the land, built it from scratch. And it's such a beautiful place to live in. And outside there was an extension, a glass extension, dome kind of room. And from the outside you can't see it, but from the inside you can see out. It was stained windows. I was going to the kitchen and my mum's whispered, she goes, come here. And I'm like, well, I knew there was a meeting going on, but I didn't know what about. Because I think at that point, I was very much so like depressed, numb, isolated. As you can imagine, I'm used to speaking. English is my first language, not Bengali. And I got no one to talk to my age. There's no one there my age, you know. And I was become really, really depressed. So for me, I was just like, yeah, what's going on? And she goes, oh, that's the guy you're going to get married to. And she pointed him out. And I was like, oh, okay. And all I remember is that he looks young. He looks very young. And it did for a flash in my head think, is he going through the same thing that I am?
Right.
Because he looked young.
Like your
But
age,
then,
like 15, 16. at that
yeah,
time.
he had a proper baby face.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, he's going through the same thing as me. Like, because he's young? Or is he like, I've hit the jackpot because I've got going to get married to a British girl?
Right.
You know, because a lot of people they would get married at the age of 12, 9, even younger, if they've got a British partner that they're going to get married to.
Right.
Because that's the jackpot.
Yeah,
You're coming over.
money.
It's like follow the yellow brick road. You're coming to a good destination. That's what they think.
Right.
But it's tough times here as well as it is over there. So, but for them, I can imagine, because I was lucky to be born here, and for them, it's like, wow, we're going get married to this person, and I'm going to the UK. But going back to that moment, I was just like, whatever. Didn't matter to me, because if it wasn't him, it would have been someone else. If it wasn't that someone else, it'd be someone else. So there was no way out for me, because I pleaded with him, my father, and I got my male cousins and everything to like really beg my father and say things like, she'll get rid of that secret boyfriend she's got, she'll go back to school, she'll finish everything properly, she'll do as you say. I really, really begged through other people to ask him not to get me married, and it was always a no. I was like, it had to happen. This is gonna happen. Final. That's it. No other choice. So the marriage soon happened after that initial meeting. No, we had the engagement, and the marriage the engagement happened around November. The marriage happened in December. It was that quick. But my father did match everything up properly. It's like he only lived 2 streets away from our house. He can speak English. Not brilliant, but he can. So he can communicate with me. He was at university. And there you can go to university at any age. And I was like thinking, like, these little like droplets of like facts weren't registering with me, because I was just ignoring everything. Because I didn't want it anyway. But then when I actually saw the marriage certificate that they frauded, because they waited till I got 16, turned 16, and I turned 16 in the January, they had to fraud them, because it was done when I was 15. They had to remake them and change the date and everything. And I remember, I saw it just like a corner of my eye, and his date of birth was on there, and I was like, oh my God, he's twice my age. Like,
so you found out his age after you already married?
Yeah.
And your dad knew well and clear his age?
Yeah.
Twice your age. So he was like...
Twice my age. I was 15, he was 30. But yeah, he looked a lot younger. But the thing is, he even knew how old he was getting married to a 15-year-old. You know, it's disgusting. My body was still a child. And I remember on the wedding, luckily, I was on my period. And luckily, one of our uncles, he's very young in his age as well. He used to live with us. And so he would be our like chaperone to go and get things from the shops if we needed anything, because women are not allowed out on their own. So if I needed anything, I would tell him and he would go and get it for me. And I remember he got me the pill. And that was his way of like protecting me. And he said these every single day. And I was like, okay, what is it? I didn't even have sex education in school. So I was like, what is it? See my mum take them, but how's that going to help me? Like, I couldn't quite understand. I was a young child myself. But he explained it and he said, you won't get pregnant, you know, etc., etc. So I was like, all right, I'll take them. And then on the wedding night, anyway, I was on my period, but it wasn't long after that. That's when all the rape started happening, and it was continuous. And I soon then started hearing things from his sister saying, oh, wouldn't it, you know, it'd be nice to have little baby feet running around. And I'd be like, in my head, I'm a baby myself. How am I supposed to bring a baby into this world? Like, are they off their heads? And I'd be like laughing in my brain. Like, these inner dialogues were happening all the time, because I couldn't express myself, and I'd be swearing and cursing and all sorts of things in my head, you know, at them with a poker face. And, you know, it was quite bizarre how I was living like that, because I was depressed, you know. I had no one to speak to, so I was going inwards. And in my head, I was like saying, haha, but I'm on the pill. That's never going to happen. You know, so like a child, I would say these little dialogues, and it wasn't long till they actually went through all my belongings while I was at my mother's house. And I came back to his house, and we sat down to have tea, and his sister threw the pills on the table, and she said, this is why she's not getting pregnant. It's because she's taking these. And she embarrassed me in front of everybody. She even brought my mother and father there as well, just to do that. And for my mother and father, it was like more shame came onto the family. They were like, oh,
so like they were also expecting you to get pregnant like ASAP sort of situation.
ASAP. And I think that's the whole thing of like bringing, because of the shame apparently my sister brought onto the family. It's like me getting married wasn't enough. It's like having a baby was enough. So it's like smooth the shame over with a new family, built family, and a baby coming as well.
Right.
What's more perfect for them?
And maybe there's the
That's
other
the ultimate
aspect
goal.
as well, is like, if you have a child, then there's no way you can leave and run away. So even if that means now, if you with the family go back to the UK, you're still going to be kind of stuck with him because now you have a child that's going to...
They wanted me to stay in Bangladesh till I had the baby and then come as a family. But I got really sick in the early stages. As you can imagine, I was so depressed because I got pregnant very quickly. I got depressed, and in my head I was just thinking, wait till you go home and then you can get an abortion. That's what I was thinking. That was my dialogue, inner dialogue all the time. Just let them do whatever they want. Let them have their parties, celebrations, whatever it is that they want. I don't care. I'm just going to wait till I get home, because I felt like as soon as I'm back on British soil, I'll get some sort of like help and get my power back, etc. But I got really, really sick very fast. My father just came home to the UK just before I got sick. So he knew I was pregnant, and then he came back to the UK because at that point we were away for almost a year out of the UK. So as you can imagine, the household bills were piling up. He needed to sort up the nest basically for us to come back. Yeah. And that's when I turned sick, and my mother was getting doctors from far and wide, and for it being a developing country, she couldn't get the right sort of medicine for me, because all the doctors were saying, we've never come across anything like this. We don't know what's wrong with her. The best thing to do is for her to quickly get home to seek medical advice. So within a week, my father booked the tickets and we came back, because I was on my deathbed there. I was in and out of consciousness. I didn't know whether I was sleeping. I didn't know what time of the day it was. I was like zoning in and out of, I felt like a zombie. I was in so much pain. I was just having blackouts. I didn't know what was happening to myself. All I remember is like my nan was by my bed. She didn't leave my side at all. So yeah, I was very, very sick, and I couldn't understand what was happening to my body. Nobody could. Everyone was like in shock. My nan, bless her, she's not with us anymore. She never left my bedside. And all I remember is her singing. And that's what kind of like gave me a bit of calmness when I was really, really sick. And the tickets were booked within a week. And I don't know how I got the energy to get up and do anything, because I didn't have the energy. My mum actually dressed me. And when we were going to the airport, I was picked from the bed to the van, to the transport, going to the airport, because I was so out of it. I wasn't well at all. And I just remember getting to the airport, and I don't know where I got the adrenaline from. It just kicked into my body, because as soon as I saw the arch, the security arch, I was like, I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm going home. It was like a golden arch for me to walk through. And somehow I'm going to be transported back to the UK, and I'm going home. And that's what I did. That's where the adrenaline kicked in. I walked through. I didn't look back at them. I heard his family were crying and stuff, and I was like, I don't care. I'm going home. When I got onto that plane, I actually slept all the way. I slept so peacefully for a long time. I can't remember what that felt like. But I slept so peacefully on that plane for 12 hours. I slept.
And did your husband at the time also join you to the UK?
No. So he was in Bangladesh, and because their main priority was what's going to happen to the baby, because I was so sick. I needed medical advice, attention urgently. And when I did get home, it's like I was home, but I still felt powerless. I felt like, where am I going to get help from? What am I going to do? I haven't seen my friends for ages. I wasn't allowed out of the house. Everything was restricted. I wasn't allowed to go back to school. I wasn't allowed to do nothing, and not even get a job. I knew all these things were going to soon come flooding towards me, and I just thought, I can't take this, and I decided to commit suicide. And I didn't succeed, obviously, but I thought that was my way out, because I didn't like myself. I didn't want the life that I had. So
you were pregnant as well at this point. Pregnant. So
yeah, I thought, if the universe wants me to die, let me just die. That's how I felt, because I felt like, what else can shock me? Nothing, because I already endured a lot of trauma, a lot of nightmares that came with my reality. I was numb to it all, and I thought, I don't care. I'm just going to try and take control of the one thing that I can. And that's what I did, naively. But I ended up in hospital, and there was this one nurse that came up to me, and she said, after my family were gone, obviously, she said, you want abortion, don't you? Because I think she looked at my age, and she could see I was in a lot of physical pain. She could see I was trying to find a way out by trying to commit suicide. And she just knew. And she asked me, what is it that what you want to do? And I was like, yeah, I want an abortion. And there was an appointment the following morning while my family are still not there, because it was done in secret. And I had a scan, and I saw my daughter's heart beating, and I thought, I can't do this. I'm not taking this life away from me. To have two hearts beating in one body is such a blessing. And I thought, I'm not doing it. I don't care how it happened. I'll just put the rest of my specks of positivity that I've got left, and I'll put it into my baby. And then I started having something to live for, because it was a baby growing inside me, and I knew that I had to be there for the baby, you know. And
I mean, at such a young age, you had that kind of strength, that maturity, and that fortitude to be able to put that anger aside for a moment and just give love to this life that was growing inside of you. And you kind of had that ability to sort of even conceptualize that, okay, look, trauma has happened to me, and it is something that will be dealt with. But it's right now, in this moment, what I can say is it's worth living for. And so I'm going to do that, which is huge, considering your age and your condition.
And I was only 16, and I made that decision, and I don't regret it at all. But the pregnancy was kind of heavy as well. My daughter wasn't moving as much. Somehow I knew I was going to have a girl. Even without the scans, I was like, no, I'm having a go. And I started to visualize all the good stuff that was going to come my way. And, you know, like just plaiting her hair and wearing the same matching outfits and things like that. As you do, we all do that. You know, we have these visualizations, and that's what I did. But the pregnancy was very, very slow. She was underweight. And I thought, maybe that's because I'm depressed. That's why it's happening. But it wasn't until more closer to the time, the due date, that the baby wasn't breech. She was breech. She wasn't heads down. And they were saying, right, we're going to set a date for a cesarean, and that would be the day that we induce you and you have your baby. And I said, oh, okay, because the baby's head was just not engaging. But she came 3 weeks earlier than that. She was like emergency cesarean. Like literally her feet were coming out of me. Literally, the nurse, when she did a check, she could tickle my baby's feet. So that's how emergency they had to get her out, because if her head got stuck, that's it. But it was the most painful, traumatic thing ever, because when they did the epidural in my spine, they did it in the wrong place. So that had to come out. And then they did it in the correct place for the second time round, and it's not pleasant at all. And then there was an incubator right next to me. And as you can imagine, there's lights everywhere. And I could see them cutting me open. I could see the reflection
on the
incubator cutting me open. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be sick. It was like stuff you see in horror movies, and you just actually watching yourself being chopped open. And I was like, oh my God, this is disgusting. Yeah. And my mum was like, don't look. And she was covering my eyes. Yeah. I was like, I want to see this.
It's traumatizing, but it's intoxicating as well.
I was like, going for it. I was like, Mum, I've already seen it. I'm going to carry on seeing it. And then I saw when they pulled her out, it quickly showed me her, and she had these beautiful big eyes, and she didn't cry or nothing at all. She just had these big eyes, and I was like, you've just caused me a lot of trauma here, and you're not even crying, you know. And then they took her straight away to the ICU, the special care unit, and I couldn't even bond with her. I couldn't even hold her, and nothing. And that was traumatizing again for me, because I was like, I just gave birth. Where's this baby gone? You know, just taken away from me. And so she was in special care unit for 3 months. So I was a mum on the ward. Yeah, I was a mum on the ward for the first 2 weeks, like just healing from the actual operation. I was pumping milk to go and feed her in the special care unit in a bottle. I wasn't allowed to let her latch on or anything, because they start to investigate then why and how I was sick, and I couldn't quite understand. I was like, why are they talking about something that happened in Bangladesh? And I remember there was 10 doctors and nurses that just flooded around me as I was on my bed. And they were like, did you ever get sick? Did you ever do this? Did you ever do that? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, okay. So they started to investigate what actually went on. And on the medical perspective about my daughter, because that's when we found out my daughter's got special needs. Back then they used the word handicapped. Right. Oh, she's handicapped. We don't know what's wrong with her. And I was going, well, what do you mean you don't know? You're the professionals. And that was another trauma for me. Because I visualized all these good things, all these happiness stuff, and now that's been taken away from me. It's like I'm not allowed to be happy at all. Every little speck of happiness was just taken away from me, and it wasn't fair. I found it really unfair. I thought life was just being horrible to me. And I couldn't bond with my child. I know that's such a big thing for a mother to say about their child. I couldn't bond with her. Because I became so isolated again in myself. I distanced myself from everything, even from my child. I was like, I can't cope. I was a child.
That's the thing. You know, the reality is that you were also a child at this point, and not only had you gone through something so traumatic with a husband and then moved back home, but now you have a child, and from a very traumatic situation, but also this child has certain things that you're unaware of, you're not able to bond with, and then you're being told things by a doctor and you have no control over any of it. Did they ever try to investigate what actually happened to cause you to get pregnant at such a young age?
They did not investigate why. I don't even think they knew I was married anyway. I think they just thought I was pregnant, and that's it. Right. Because I was in England. It wasn't even recognised as a marriage here anyway. Right. Because it was underage. Because when I did decide to keep my baby, I did write a letter to the High Commissioner in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, which is the capital. I don't know how I got the brains to do that at 16. But I wrote a letter and I gave the husband's name, address, date of birth, everything. And I remember this so clearly. I wrote in capital, he's a horrible man. Wow. I don't want him to ever come to the UK. He had sex with me forcefully, this, that and the other. I remember saying that, writing that in that letter. And I did get a response.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah. I got a response and they said, thank you for letting us know. So I was like, wow, but I had to hide that letter, obviously. I was waiting for a response, and I used to get quite early anyway. And I would run downstairs as soon as the post comes, and I remember I got it and I quickly hid it. And I did get a response from them. But when going back to when the doctors were investigating, they never questioned that part because they didn't know I was married. They only questioned the parts where, can you remember a time when you were sick and this, that and the other? Was there anybody around you that was sick? And I was like, yeah, well, actually, the baby's father was very sick, like a week before I got sick. And they put it down to like old wives' tales. The woman's pregnant, so the male feels the pregnancy as well. That's what they were saying. They were saying like, oh, it's old wives' tales and stuff like that. So when the husband feels the woman's pregnancy, he gets sick as well. And I was like, oh, whatever. And then he was sick, and I was going, what? All these little things they did pinpoint. Yeah, that is what happened. And then they obviously tested my baby, and so many like scans, hearing tests, like full like MOT, you know, for a human being. And then they found out that she had, obviously I had contracted CMV from him, 𝗔𝗯𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗔. So 𝗔𝗔𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗀 is a very common virus. Everybody does get it at some point. So I could get it as a cold, you could get it as a cough. But if the mother contracts it while she's conceiving, and it destroys the embryo, basically, the development of the embryo. So it can cause like hearing loss, it can cause slow development in the brain. Physically, the baby, there could be abnormalities. You can lose the baby. The baby's life could be absolutely gone, and all sorts of things like that. And that's what they said. They said I contracted that. And I'm like, well, what is that? Like, they only gave me a leaflet. This leaflet, which had just one page of like writing on it, and that was it. And I did not know anything else to it. And I was like, well, what do I do?
Yeah. What does this even, entail? What am I supposed to do from this point on?
And because I had to leave my baby in hospital anyway, because she needed to like grow. She needed to grow good weight before she came home. It's like I just went into my own world. I came home finally, and then I felt like, well, my baby's not here. Usually when you come home with a baby, everyone's celebrating. There's balloons around, there's cards around, there's flowers around. I had nothing. And it felt like nothing was celebrated because she's a handicapped child. That's how I felt. Like, they blamed me as well. His side of the family blamed me. Like, I did something to the child. Oh, when you took the pills and tried to commit suicide and kill yourself, you destroyed the baby. And I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't destroy the baby. The doctors have said what it was. They investigated everything, knew stuff about me that only I would know, and I've seen and witnessed in Bangladesh. But they did it through such a medical way of right. Well, and plus they've got the test results and everything. That is CMV. So they did advise me that I shouldn't have any more babies because it can pass on to the next one as well, because it can stay in your system for a long time. So all sorts of things. And I was like, well, what am I? Am I diseased? What am I? I couldn't understand it. Really couldn't understand it. But finally, my baby came home then, and I started to like kind of bond with her. But I started to hear little whispers around the house that they wanted me to move to a different city. To a city where the husband's uncle lives. It's a place called Bedford. And I was thinking, no way am I going to be a cook, a cleaner, a slave, and live in someone else's house. I'm not doing that. I had too much of a personality to go down that route, even before the marriage happened, even before, my personality could develop even more, because I was a rebel. I was always like, Rubie's going to do whatever she wants to do. I had such a strong personality within my siblings growing up. I wouldn't take crap from anybody. I would just be like, right, okay. And I think I learned that because I had so many brothers and sisters. You have to stand up for yourself. And I thought to myself, no, I'm not moving to anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Do you reckon that they were considering moving you there because probably the uncle was there, but also were they worried that you were going to reconnect with your secret boyfriend?
I think that was a possibility, yeah, because he only lived a street away from me, and I think they knew that I did meet up with him a couple of times. We were best friends when we were kids, and that's how I knew him. I still talk to him now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why did they still see that as a threat? Because I was a married woman now, and that would be a quadruple volcano. Or on a rocket, tie me up to a rocket and shoot to the stars. That's how much shame I would have brought on. So I think they did have that insight, But I actually developed a relationship with somebody else through the phone. Because my younger brother was working in a restaurant, and I used to ask him to bring food, back with him, like takeout. And I sparked up a relationship with this person because he had a different accent, and I eloped with him, actually.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. Okay, hold on. We need to go back to this. So before we get to that part, your daughter's come back home and you're slowly starting to kind of bond with her and connect. And all this while you're building a relationship with this other guy. I'm guessing at this point being even more secret than you'd ever been before, like really careful, making sure.
Because I saw I was desperate and I needed a way out.
Right, that makes sense. Especially so because you knew they were going to send you to bed.
It wasn't. Yeah, well, it really wasn't about love. It was like, he can get me out of here.
Right.
Because all those whispers were happening for me to move, and I was just like, that's what I'm going to do. That's my plan. Oh. And then I did elope, and then my family tracked me down. It's because, the community is so tight-knitted.
Yeah.
they're like FBI agents. That's the best way that I can describe it. If they want to find out where you are, they'll just tell you about the family name, and that's it. And everyone has little clusters of FBI agents in every community.
Wow.
And that's how they find you. Honestly, it's scary. And when they tracked me down, they brought me back home and they said, right, where's your passport? Because my cousin, she was going to Bangladesh, and they said, well, you want to be with this new guy? Okay, then you're going to go to Bangladesh, you're going to get a quick divorce, come back, and then you can do whatever you want. But I was too clever for that. I was like, it's a one-way ticket. I'm never coming back. And then I ran away again.
And
twice.
you'd taken your daughter with you the second time?
I took my daughter with, yeah.
Okay.
I took my daughter the first time. And then the second time, I saw one of my friends across the road. We lived on a busy main road, and there were shops and everything there. And I saw my friend, and I thought, she can help me. Because her family well connected in the community. She's Welsh, obviously not same race as me. And I was like, her family can help me. And I ran across the road and I said, you gotta help me, you gotta help me. So that's when I got the police involved. That's when the police didn't come that day. They thought I was having a tantrum because I'm a young girl. They came the next day to my father's house. And then my friend took me with her parents to my mother and father's house. The police didn't know what to do. They were like, we don't know how to deal with this situation. I was like, I just want my baby and I just want to go. And this is where I'm going. Because I already had his address, you know, the one that I eloped with. Yeah. I said, I want to go there. And I don't know how, call it the universe, he had a bad inkling something happened to me. So he got in touch with the police and found out what's happening, just out of the blue. Because I didn't have his phone number. I left it in the house. And that's when everything's just started syncing up. And my father was trying his best to get rid of the police. He was like saying, she's just having a tantrum. She doesn't know what she wants. And I was like, no, I do know what I want. I want to get out of this hellhole. And yeah, it was very fascinating because it took them 6 hours to make a decision of what's going to happen with this situation. And then finally, a lady police officer escorted me into the house. I got my baby. I had one little grocery bag of her clothes. I had no money to my name. I think my friend's parents paid for my train ticket. I can't even remember. And I left Wales to come to England. But that's when I ended up in a 5-year domestic violent relationship with him. With this person that I loved with. Because I didn't know any better. I was disowned by my family. I was young. I had a newborn. And I got trapped in that cycle for a very long time, 5 years. And then a further 5 years after that. There was court cases and everything. I did have a son from him as well. And then I was just trying to get him off my back because it was like Groundhog Day. The violence was bad. And I took him to court. Nothing happened to him. Nothing. But the best part was he wasn't allowed in my children's in my children's life at all. They barred him from coming near my kids because he wasn't mentally stable. But then you think it would stop there, but it didn't stop there. I got myself into a lot of dysfunctional relationships because I was dysfunctional. So I was attracting what I am. And I was just digging a more deeper hole for myself. And it wasn't until I was like 27. I actually, 10 years after, I thought to myself, no, I'm going to stop the cycle. I'm stopping it now. I'm done with it. I'm done with like looking for a person to get with in a relationship that reminds me of my father. I'm not doing this. And it took a lot of strength to do that. And that's when I had to revert to the 8-year-old me to find out what she would have wanted. Because I missed out so many years and I just went back into theories of counselling. And that's what I did. Because I obviously went back to finish my schooling off. I went to university and I did integrative counselling. So I started to apply all those theories to myself and heal myself. And that's when I started getting on the ladder then of my mental health, my self-awareness, development, everything. And then I carried on. But it wasn't until 2016 I had another bombshell that my daughter's father had come over here to the UK with a work permit. And I was like, how did he get over here when I wrote that letter? to the High Commissioner in Dhaka. But his uncles sponsored him to come over. So he had 2 years here. He saw his daughter once. And that's another thing. I allowed it to happen because I thought, I don't want nothing to do with you. But my family was like, let him see her. He hasn't done nothing to her. And I was like, okay, he can see her. He saw her once when she was 7 years old, never gave her a penny, never gave her any support, nothing. His aim was, she's a British girl, I'm going to stay here with a work permit. No, I'm going to go, and when my time's up, I'm going to go undercover, because that's what he did. And he couldn't be found for years after. And then they finally found him, detained him in London, and then he took me to court. He took me to court saying that he sees his daughter every single weekend and he's got a brilliant bond with her, and that's why he's got a right to stay here in the UK. I was going, you don't have a bond with your daughter at all. Because my daughter's got a lot of professionals involved with her for her development and, you know, her special needs. Obviously, they know who's involved with my family. They know who's involved with Shyla. They know who's around Shyla. You know, all these things are documented from the get-go. And there's no trace of him. And I had to go to court, and I was very scared because I was like, I don't want to see this person. I never wanted to see him again. Luckily, he wasn't there. And I was sitting there, and there was 3 people, there was 3 judges, and they were looking over the paperwork for like 5 minutes. They said, Miss Marie. And I stood up, and they were like, he's banned from coming here to the UK ever again. He will not be coming back here. We're going to deport him. And I was like, result.
Wow.
That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted from the beginning.
Yeah.
But it came after, 20 years after? So the universe played, but 20 years after.
Yeah. It was almost like another test to be like, okay, we're going to put this guy in front of you and see sort of like what's going to happen. Almost,
what are you going to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what majority of my life is like, okay, you've been through this situation, but we're going to put you in this situation. But how are you going to look at it differently now? What choices are you going to make?
Yeah.
And it's always been a learning curve for me, always. And I think that shows my wisdom and my growth towards a lot of trauma stuff. Because I did put myself through the grueling tasks of healing my mental health. Because if I'm not going to do it, who is?
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's
if I'm
like
not
it's quite a
mentally well-
lonely journey, quite a lonely experience, but yet at the same time, it can be so fulfilling when you know that you've conquered it sort of on your own, right?
Yeah, I did it for my kids. They were my driving force. I did it for them because I was like saying to myself, no more of this crap. No more.
Yeah.
Only I can change the dynamics now. I can change the energy now. So I'm going to change it. And I cried so much, like looking back on my life and unpicking every single little detail and going through it again and healing through it and then going back to it again. And no matter how many times it took me to go back to those traumatic times, I made sure that I went through it again.
Yeah.
I had to, for my children's sake. Yeah. And then that's when I started finding my voice, and I fell into like doing some modeling, because that's when the camera phones came out, and it's like you could have like a makeover day where you could feel nice and glamorous and everything. And my friend bought me one, and she was like, go and enjoy yourself. And we did. We had an amazing time together. And then I built my confidence through that and doing more modeling and photo shoots. And then pageantry fell in my lap. And then that was a platform which I just found my knack of talking. And I found that people stop and listen to me. And I was like, I've got something here. I've got a knack here. I've got an essence to me where I can bring something to the table and people listen. But I never used it like to advance me in anything. Or, I remember one of my pageantry interviews. I said, I've got a big toolbox here, because life's dealt me a lot of wrong cards. But I've gone through those cards, every single cards of them, and I've worked myself through it. And I know if there's anyone out there that needs help, I can just pick up a tool and say, right, come on, let's sit down and let's talk.
Yeah.
Because I know how it feels. And I started doing more and more of that. And that's when I found my voice. And then I started speaking, getting involved with media, charities. And that's what's led me here today. 10 years of talking.
That's amazing. Do you feel like talking about your story, and the more you talk about it and share different perspectives of the trauma, do you feel like you also kind of understand it in different ways every time you talk about it and process it differently and kind of have new revelations
100%, I think I've dissected every single trauma and every single part of my life and looked at it and analyzed it and from multi perspectives.
Yeah, for sure. I love it.
Yeah, because I understand, like, even to his point of view, I can understand what it would have been for him. Like, he didn't care. He was like, no, I just want to follow that yellow brick road and get to, you know, UK. And this is the best thing that's ever happened to me because I can get to a country that's going to be more fulfilling, and I've got a baby now, and blah, blah, blah. No matter how badly he wanted to do it, he did it badly. But that was his aim and goal, to do that.
Right.
So I understand that. I'm not saying I accept it. I understand it. I understand my father's perspective. I understand how he would have got pressurized from the community to make this decision. Because I was daddy's girl. Me and my father had an amazing relationship before all that happened. So I couldn't quite understand why he was doing it. But then I do now.
Do you have a relationship with your dad and mom now?
Not with my father, not really. He was very sick a couple of months ago, well, good 6 months ago now, where he needed heart operations. He had like 4 major heart operations within 2 weeks. And I did go down, and he thought I was my sister at first because we all look alike. We look like clones. All our brothers and sisters, we look like clones. And he thought I was my elder sister, and I was like, no, it's me, Rubie. And then he just looked at me, and you could just tell, he's like, this man's on his deathbed now. I didn't even need words. I just kissed him on the forehead, and I said, right, let's get you fed. And I started feeding him food. I was like, right, eat this now. And then I remember he was complaining about something, and I was like, it's too late for you to complain about things. Don't you think you should just let all that stuff go? And I was talking to him like a child. Like, I was the adult, he was the child. Yeah. And I know he will never, ever admit it. I know he will never come to saying sorry. But I know he lives with it every single day.
Yeah.
And that's his karma. That's the way I live. It's like, I don't need to do nothing. Karma will get you. Karma will do it all for you. I'm very in tune with the spiritual universe world, and I don't need to wish ill upon anyone, not even my daughter's father. I don't. You'll get served what you need to.
Yeah. Like just trusting that the universe will give it to
yeah,
give them
and you know what?
Yeah.
It's never failed me. Never failed me.
Yeah.
Honestly, throughout the years, I'm like, universe.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you. Like, thank you. Do you know what I mean? We know why that's happened. Yeah, so...
What about your sister? Did you ever hear back from her at any point after?
Yeah, she connected with the family not long after. Because when I got pregnant, she got pregnant as well at similar times. And she connected back with the family because obviously she wanted the grandparents involved with her baby and, you know, or etc. And she was a married woman by then as well. So she wanted all that, and she took advantage of it, and she did it. So she got her family back. Yeah.
That's amazing that your dad and mom were able to sort of even find it in them to sort of be able to forget and forgive, because
it was never my mother. It was always my father and the males in the community. My mother is such a warrior. She is such a kind-hearted woman. She will take a stray off the streets to feed them. My mom is so giving. It's even though she might not have, like, she will give a last penny to the poor. That's what she's like. And I have gained majority of her attributes, and I love that. I love that I can carry on that. You know what I've learned when I went to Bangladesh. And it's a collective thing as well, because it's not just happened to me. It affects everybody in the family. It affects my siblings, it affects my friends, it affects everyone. I'm the main frontal of it, but it does ripple out. It really does.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, Rubie, that's so powerful. And I love how you turned something so hard and so painful into such a power story for yourself, that you eloped to get out of that situation. Yes, you found yourself in another one, but you know what? You found your own within that too as well. And you fought the court cases that you needed to fight. And, you know, it was kind of like...
I just kept battling.
Out the way, the way.
I was like, no one is stepping over me ever again. Yeah. No one. Yeah. And, you know, but I did find myself that I did still carry some toxic behaviors, as you would, you know. No one's squeaky clean. Like, I did bring that into my 30s. And it's like, I'm 42 now, and I only feel most at peace now than I ever have done before. I feel like I only owe myself and my children. I love people and I love them when they love me back. It's like the energy has to match now. Otherwise, I'm not invested in nothing. You know, I'm very giving. I would give my time to people. I would always help people out in everything, anything and everything that they need. But I won't exhaust myself out. I know what my standards are in the fact that if I'm going to get too tired doing this, I'm not going to do it. I've got to be very realistic about things. And, you know, and it's okay to say, no, I can't do it. Can we change this? It's okay to do that. You know, I feel now I'm peace with the universe.
I love that. What about in terms of relationships? Like, are you kind of trusting of men and relationships? You know,
I don't paint men with the same brush. No, I really don't. I've had some crap relationships, but I've also known why, because of the things that I was needing from that relationship as well. And it's a need. It's not I would like or I want.
Right.
It's like I needed that. I was needing toxic things because my life was toxic, because that felt familiar to me. And in a way, we become the one thing that we don't want. And that's what I saw. I became the needy person of like my father. I wanted my father so badly back in my life to love me. I looked for him in different men.
Yeah.
Because my father was my first love. He was my first love.
Right. And you were also, he was your role model in a sense. So everything that he was doing to your mom and to anyone else around you, that was what you were seeking out without even realizing, maybe deep inside your psyche, that's what you were looking for.
It's all females' first love is their father. All males, when they are born, the mum is their first love. Yeah. That's how we learn these things. That's why your father gives you away down the aisle.
Right.
Because he's giving you to another man that is going to uphold his values, the way he loves his daughter, and the way that you should love her now as your wife.
Yeah, I love that. Rubie, thank you so much for being on Multispective and sharing your journey, your story here with us. And yeah, I know, super empowering. And I'm sure anyone listening to this as well would have a lot they can take away from your experience.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed the episode and would like to help support the show, please follow and subscribe. You can rate and review your feedback on any of our platforms listed in the description. I'd like to recognize our guests who are vulnerable and open to share their life experiences with us. Thank you for showing us we're human. Also, a thank you to our team who worked so hard behind the scenes to make it happen.
𝗠𝗂𝗹𝘁𝗂𝘁,
Stefan Menzel.
The show would be nothing without you. I'm Jenica, host and writer of the show, and you're listening to Multispective.